You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
And this week, I'm telling you that we are now finally able to ship the Dr. Cabral Detox and the Daily Support Shake, which is your all-in-one. It's your multivitamins, your minerals, your electrolytes, your energy sources, your antioxidants, your vegan protein powder, all in one. And you can find those right at drcabraldetox.com. Well, we're finally able to ship to the UK and Canada. We've waited almost 4 months now to be able to do that. We are going to be expanding worldwide, but for right now, we're now moving from the US to now the UK and Canada. Very excited about that, and we know we've had hundreds of people who have emailed in hoping that we are able to ship that soon. And it's at a very reasonable price. All right, well, let's get right into today's show. So today's show on our Total Wellness Tuesday edition is there really a difference between wild and farm-raised salmon? So this really is a big topic, and the reason is it's difficult to get wild salmon, and not a lot of people enjoy the taste of wild salmon when compared to farmed. So I get emails all the time, wellness clients ask, and so here's the thing. When we're looking at wild versus farmed, well, we know what wild is, right? It's swimming around in the ocean on its own turf, doing its own thing. Okay, so that's wild. We're not disturbing it. Now, farmed, what is farmed? Well, a lot of times there's different variations of this, but a lot of farmed salmon come from netted areas in the ocean where, and again, you can get salmon from different sources, but we're going to talk about where they're just netting different sections and they're keeping all of the salmon confined to one section. And they're basically corralled just as you would see cattle on a concentrated feeding farm, and I put farm in quotations, where they have thousands, tens of thousands of cattle just on top of each other. Now you can imagine the disease, basically their own waste that they're walking around with on the cattle farms. And the same thing is happening right now with the salmon. They see the disease, they see the weakened immune systems. This is all what they're studying right now. Now, keep in mind, this is just in one generation. So here's the bigger thing now. This is now proven without a doubt that there's a huge difference between wild versus farm salmon. One is typically there's half the omega-3s. And we're eating salmon, hopefully, for the great omega-3s, right? It's, has astaxanthin, which is a very powerful antioxidant that gives it some of that nice bright red or bright orange color, even reddish. And then you can see salmon in the store. It's not even half the color of the orange. It's very, very pale. Now they're dyeing it, which is completely insane. They're literally using food dyes to change the color of the salmon. And so there's less omega-3s. There's more disease inside the salmon itself. But also, there's now in just one generation, huge DNA differences. It's not the same salmon. There are 736 detected genetic variations in farm salmon. So this was done by Oregon State University. It's a published study, and it shows that this farm salmon is no longer the same exact salmon you would get from wild salmon. You're not going to get the same benefits, and even it could be harmful for your health. So my suggestion is this. Although salmon can be a lower mercury-based fish, you have to get it wild, or you have to look for a space that's doing a more environmentally friendly farm salmon where it's not overcrowded and they're not being fed soy, corn, hormones, antibiotics. It's very important to find out what your food source is. So if you can only get access to farm salmon, please make sure that it's ethically done, that it's done in a way where the salmon are actually getting their natural feed. Now, some places are doing this, so I'm not against that. But if you can get wild, wild is obviously best. One other thing I want to point out to people is this. You don't need to eat 12 to 16 ounces of fish per serving. It's okay to eat 4 ounces, 6 ounces, or 8 ounces at the most. We don't need this mass consumption of animal or fish or egg or any other type of protein like that. As humans, we need protein. We can get it from many different sources, and if you choose to get it from fish, you don't need the larger amounts, especially if you're eating things that are higher mercury fish like tuna or swordfish or something like that. What I recommend is just getting a palm-sized piece of fish. That's all you need. Besides that, you can be eating plenty of vegetables. You can be eating other things with your meal as well. Maybe you're having yuca or sweet potatoes or Japanese yams, which are one of my favorite, with that, so that you don't have to have this massive amount of protein at each meal. So not only is it better for the environment, you're still getting protein, so you can still have that. You're getting a wild-based source, so you're getting all the great omega-3s and everything that goes along with it, but you're not getting all the negative stuff that comes along, again, with the farmed salmon. So please do pick and choose your battles. And it does look like, especially, we want to stay away from this genetically modified salmon along with the farm-raised varieties. Please do seek out wild-based sources. And if you do have to go for the farm-raised option, do look for the ethically raised ones that are not being fed foods that are unnatural for their own constitution. Keep in mind, we've seen this many times in the past. It's happened to our meat sources where our meat is polluted. Their cattle are not being able to graze on their natural habitat and grass. They're being fed the same things: corn, soy, estrogen-based products, growth hormone-based products. They're literally being pumped up full of all of these things to make themselves grow at a rapid rate. When that happens, we see disease, we see all sorts of things go along with it. And keep in mind, this happens with every single animal, with every single study that they do, even look at in terms of DNA-based differences. And so one of the big things I always look back to is they saw in cats, taking cats and feeding them something that was not their own natural-based food, like cats are carnivores. So house cats, Pottinger did studies on this. Within 2 or 3 generations of feeding them things that were not correct for their own constitution, they became sterile. They were literally a different animal. The bottom line is this: once we start changing how our food is manufactured, how our own food is fed, it changes then what we actually put into our own body. My advice for you is that you have to stay close to nature, is that we can't start with these Frankenstein-based experiments. We have to stick with what nature intended us to eat, and if you are going to eat meat and you are going to eat fish, you need to get them that fed on their natural-based habitat, which means cattle grazing on grass, chickens being pastured, eggs coming from pastured chickens, fish being wild. It has to go with that. And if you're not able to, well, then eat less of those specific things, or eat more, split mung beans, a lentil, something like that, which is going to get you some protein as well. You don't always have to be consuming so much animal, fish, and egg-based protein. Your body doesn't need that, especially at 3 meals per day. I'll talk more about this in the future, but today I just want to stick with the differences between wild and farm-raised salmon. And now that you know that there are 736 different DNA genetic variations, you can understand that you're not getting the same wild fish when you eat farm-raised. That is enough for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Cabral Concept. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.